pretty excited about this trip because we're going to track down the site of an old moonshine operation out here. Look how beautiful that sunset is back there. It's pretty flat in here. It's pretty. How's it going, everybody? Casey here with the Coyote Works channel. So we're heading out here into a piece of country where I'm hoping to track down an old whiskey still that I found some signs of years and years ago, and then I've never been able to locate it again. So one thing about this time of year is we really don't know what we're going to run into as far as conditions. Having said that, I can see snow on the buttes up in front of us, kind of in the area where we're going. So it's going to be a little bit of an adventure. I'm not exactly sure what the trip has in store for us, so you guys will be figuring it out right along with me. Now, that's one thing that I really don't get too wrapped around the axle about, is what specifically is going to happen on a trip when I go out. I usually have kind of a rough idea in mind or a rough plan in mind, but at the end of the day, for the most part, I just look forward to being out, exploring in the backcountry, and I'm not too twisted up about what specifically ends up happening or not. I grabbed my phone in case we find some cool things to take selfies in front of. So we're out here, we're gonna track down this old whiskey still out here, and I'm convinced that we're gonna find it, and you guys are gonna really appreciate seeing this. It's a really cool site hidden way back up in a cleft in the rimrock. It was just a really cool little hideaway from back in the days of Prohibition, when there were some old cowboys out here in this country that were making a little extra money running moonshine. But on the way back in there, I saw some old cans out here, so we're going to take a quick little walk around and see what we find right here. There's a couple of these big old juniper trees around here with the some limbs cut off the bottom of them years and years ago. So it looked like it might possibly have been a site of a camp or maybe even a homestead. So I don't want to burn a lot of time, but we wanted to take a quick walk around here and see if we could find any sign of what might have been going on here. Yeah, see, here's an example right here. Look at that stump cut right there. And that was pretty old. So, and then you can see on this tree here, see how that was limbed up? I'll show you guys a little closer, but see how this limb was cut off of that tree. But heck, see how much the tree's grown out around that? And who knows, they could have cut that limb off, you know, it looks like it was cut with an axe too. See that? So that could have been cut when it was 6 inches long, and that's how much the tree's grown out there. All right, I see something up here. Look at this. One piece of galvanized something. Okay, here's something else. A can. So there was definitely something going on around here. Yeah, it could have been as simple as a place where an old cowboy camped a couple of times out here, or it could be that we're in close proximity to an old homestead site. But unfortunately, the only way to figure it out is just by pounding the dirt a little bit, gridding back and forth and seeing what other signs we can find. But so also on this trip, we'll show you guys a little bit of my camp setup. We'll probably do a little camp cooking, but I've got a real traditional old school camp breakfast planned for tomorrow morning out here, and it's something that's really simple, but it's just one of those old school kind of camp staples. So I'm actually looking forward to eating that, but I'm also looking forward to showing you guys. So camp cooking, some hiking, exploring. We're gonna find some old history, and all in all, we're just gonna hang out together and have a good time out here. So I don't necessarily show this stuff a lot on my channel, but I did have somebody ask me why I didn't carry a 10mm out here, and I actually do. So I'd show you guys that real quick. So this is the Glock, oh, I always forget what it is, the Glock 20. It's basically the full-size 10mm, and I just have it set up with a blacked out rear sight and a fiber optic front sight through a TLR1 weapon light on it, and that's kind of my woods gun. So anyway, thought I'd show you guys that. Oh yeah, there's another tin. These are old kerosene cans, but this one, oh no, this one's not a kerosene can. I don't know what that is with that big round opening in it. All right, so obviously here's a whole bunch of trash. Oh yeah, look at this. Look at this. See all these boards here? And an old cellar hole right there. Wow. All right, so this is definitely an old homestead site. Here's the foundation of it, and then look at this. Found a little enamelware bowl, or what's left of one. It's been stepped on a few times, but you can see little bits of the enamelware still left on it. Some old homesteader had their dinner out of that. Yep. Pretty crazy. So you can see the outside wall here, and it's interesting. So I bet this thing wasn't more than, it's like maybe 15 by 15, something like that. So just your pretty typical old homesteaders one-room cabin out here, and they probably lived in this thing for, you know, maybe they made it 3 years, 2 years, 3 years, but this was their life, this little one-room homestead here. They probably had a little pot-bellied wood stove in it, and they were trying to grow enough grass out here, or enough dry land kind of grain to support a couple of cows, and that just enough that they could sustain them. Oh yeah, there's some pieces of the stovepipe right there. So we know it had an old stove in it. What's this right here? Oh, look at that. An old shell button. It's got the middle of it broken out, but I love finding those old buttons like that. All right, here's a bunch more boards here. Looks like maybe there was some kind of a shed. There's a post there. This juniper's probably grown up quite a bit in the middle there. Oh yeah, and here's some more fence row. So they did quite a bit of clearing here. That area out there is not cleared. That area is cleared. And there's all those rocks piled around the trees. Oh yeah. Looks like there was definitely a building here. All these boards. So there's the homestead and the foundation right there. And then right here, I would almost bet this is the remains of an old fire pit that they created out in front of the homestead, and this is where they probably did some outdoor cooking and hung around it, because it's just probably, oh, there's the homestead, there's the fire pit. So I mean, it's basically just right out in front of the homestead. So yeah, I bet that's where they cooked a lot of their outdoor meals when the weather would allow it. Oh, check this out. All right, I think we just hit the mother lode of their trash dump. Yeah, look at all this. I think that's a piece of an old mason jar. Oh, look at this, guys. There's more. Oh, this is mortared, whatever it is. And there's another like cellar hole right there. Wow. I have no idea what this is. But that's some old mortar in there. So we found the remains of at least 3 structures on the site. Pretty significant amount of stone fence. One pretty good cellar hole, foundation hole, and quite a bit of debris. So I would definitely say the site was occupied for, you know, a decent amount of time. Pretty cool little site in here. Yeah, it's starting to get a little bit sloppier in here, so that was pretty cool seeing that last little homestead. Now I'm just working my way up towards that country where we're gonna find that old whiskey still. But we are getting into a little bit more snow, and it's really interesting in here. There's, you know, deep mud right underneath the snow or right on the edges of where the snow is melting, and then it'll be just dusty in between. So the snow's been here for a while and it's just been slowly melting. All right, well, this looks like the spot to camp tonight. So it's a nice little spot. I'm in amongst some of these older, bigger juniper trees. I am on a pretty good slope with the Jeep, so I'm gonna have to level it up a little bit. So I think I'm just gonna level the Jeep right now and do a couple of things to get my camp set up. I'm not gonna do a ton, just a couple of things, because we still got a couple of hours of light, and I want to take off and see if we can't find this old moonshine still site, or at least I know we're near this rim and it's somewhere along this rim here, so at least we can get the first section of it out of the way this evening, and if we don't find it, then we'll pick up where we left off tomorrow. So like I said, the Jeep's on a little bit of a slant, and since it's going to be my sleeping platform, I want to level it up a little bit, so I'm going to grab my bottle jack out and level up the Jeep real fast. So I got this area right here, right down here is pretty muddy, so you can actually get a couple of shovelfuls of juniper duff and toss them on there. Put some of this on top. I'll just soak up some of that mud and make it not quite so sloppy. Alright, rooftop tent stood up, and I actually think it's decently level. Alright, I found a nice and dry spot right here. I think I'll set my fire reflector wall up right here. Guys, as crazy as it is, I just heard a truck down there. Actually, I think there's 2 of them. And I heard some guys get out yelling and a couple of shots. So I'm going into stealth mode. I don't think they have any idea I'm here, but I'm being nice and quiet. And I think I'm going to throw a kind of a green jacket on and go on a little walk, and we'll see if we can't kind of get an idea of what they're doing. Hopefully they're not camping down there. There's a nice little meadow about a quarter of a mile down there. All right, we're gonna go over here and see if we can get eyes on these guys and see what they're doing. And then hopefully, if they look like they're pretty benign, then we'll start looping on our walk to see if we can't go find that moonshine still. All right, this is absolutely beautiful out here. I'm gonna get up to the top of this hill. Yeah, we got all these cool rock formations in here. We're coming up on this point. This should be one of the higher points out in this area. Check this out. All right, I don't know if you guys can hear this, but they're out riding motorcycles now. So, oh man, just my luck. 2-3 weekends in a row, I haven't been able to get out. Finally get a weekend where I get to sneak out of here. And some freaking people with motorcycles camp within a quarter of a mile of me. All right, we're about to get eyes on that camp. So they're off riding motorcycles, and I've been watching their camp for a while, and it's totally empty, but that's it. Van, trailer, and then right on the other side of that van and trailer, there's a pickup truck too. So I wanted to get a shot of the camp just in case anything nefarious happens. Somebody finds my camera, but I never show back up. Those are the culprits right there. All right, gonna work back to camp now. We still got a decent little track back up to our camp, but should be relatively easy to find, even if it does get completely dark on us now. Check this out, guys. I saw a couple of cans. See those guys down there? And then I picked up this piece of a stove. A lot of history in this area. We'll have to check this out a little closer. Part of an old bucket. Is that signs of the old moonshiners that were up in here? Who knows? Another can right there. Well, shoot, guys. Those guys are away from their camp, but their camp is literally like 500 yards that way. And they were playing music, shooting guns. It was at that point that rather than run the risks of camping in close proximity to a couple of guys who were mixing guns and alcohol, I'd pack up camp, get out of Dodge, and head for a safer location. I think if I hurry, I can get most of my camp tore down and I won't have to use any supplemental light. Yeah, I can hear those guys. They just got back to their camp, and I think I made the right call. They've already got a radio going down there, and which that in and of itself isn't such a big deal. But the real issue is that I don't know if they're going to come traipsing over here and shooting out this direction. So, yeah, I think I made the right call packing up. It's going to be a little bit of a rodeo trying to find another spot to camp, but you know what? I've got lots of practice setting up camp after dark. So this is where it pays to have a nice, tight, well-organized camp. I packed my whole camp up in about the last 7 minutes in complete dark. And I hear those guys moving around down there, so let's roll out of here. All right, so now the tricky part is we got to navigate out of here in the dark, and we're just going to have to turn our lights on. There's just no way of getting around it. Looks like there is the road. Perfect. All right, so the question is now, where are we going to go? And what I'd like to do is get a ways up this road, and then we'll look for a road that's going to hook off to our right and take us back in to some more remote country. But this is definitely a little soft in here in places, so well, it's not optimal driving out here through the dark. I always recommend when you're out in the backcountry, and especially when you're traveling unknown roads, that you try to do all of your driving in the light. So it's a little tricky navigating. You can't see any terrain or anything off in the distance, but we're just pecking our way along here, and I'm thinking about heading into an area where I kind of know it a little bit. I know, generally speaking, there's a pretty good area that should have quite a few places to camp in it. So, all right, I'm on a sketchy little road with absolutely no tracks on it right now. But there's just enough snow that I've got some frozen ground underneath me, and oh dear Lord. Man, this is a rough one. All right, we're gonna have to go down to crawl mode here. The bummer of this is I've never been down this road before, and because it's pitch black, I can't see the country. This might actually be a pretty cool area in here, but I'm not gonna know. I'm gonna have to drive back through it in the daylight sometime. Let there be light. All right, I don't know how great of a spot this is, but it's a spot. I think my Jeep's somewhat level. It's a little hard to tell in the dark, but yeah, so I'm just gonna throw up my rooftop tent, get my table out. We're just gonna do a real quick mountain house meal. God, I've been driving forever, and I finally got into this place where I have no idea what it looks like, but it seems like there's some bigger trees in here. I haven't seen any tracks for hours, so I should not have to deal with any more people for the rest of this trip, which makes me really happy. Boy, one thing I will tell you, the temperature is dropping fast out here. Let's see if I've got a beef stew mountain house meal. That sounds good. Yep, there we go. We'll do a beef stew. All right, I'll get a pot out, get some water boiling, and that's all we'll need to do to have a little bit of dinner. All right, well, this isn't such a bad camp, huh? Pretty soon we'll have some hot grub in us, and I feel a lot better about this spot right here. I feel like I'm out in the middle of nowhere and I'm well beyond the reach of anybody. Oh, it looks like my water's boiling. All right, now pro tip, we're gonna take a mountain house meal and set it right down in that pan with the rest of the hot water. Put the lid on it. That'll help keep it nice and hot while it's hydrating. Okay, well, we'll sit here while our mountain house is hydrating, and I'll take this time. I usually do this in front of the campfire, but I just wanted to take a minute and thank everyone that contributed to my gas and tires fund by clicking on the PayPal donate link in the description of the video down below. Thanks to you all. This channel is completely funded by you and me. If you enjoy my videos and you're interested in contributing to my channel, the best way to do so is by clicking on that PayPal donate link in the description down below. Every little bit helps, and every little bit of it goes right back into the channel. As always, I appreciate it, guys, and boy, my mountain house meal should be about done. All right, let's see how this mountain house meal's coming. The pot's still warm, that's a good sign. Oh yeah, it's still nice and hot. Yeah, you just can't beat that mountain house beef stew for a quick, good meal. And the flavor's just really excellent in it. Yeah, you know, even though it was kind of a bummer getting booted out of that last camp spot or whatever, I mean, part of what I really enjoy about coming out here is the solitude and that part of the experience. So for me, it was worth it to pack it up, spend a couple hours getting to this spot right here where I feel like I've got my own little slice of the high desert out here. Right now, man, life is just perfect. I'm enjoying sitting out here underneath these big old juniper trees, and I'm really interested to see what this place looks like in the morning. I've never been in this area through here. It's in between a couple areas that I've traveled, and it'll be neat to wake up in the morning and see kind of what it looks like in here. All right, I am up in the rooftop tent. I've got my little Covea butane heater going, and it's just making it just perfect in here for changing my clothes, and it'll get me nice and warm when I crawl into my sleeping bag. So I'll start out the night nice and warm. And so I did want to mention something real quick. I get a lot of questions about condensation in the rooftop tent. So condensation is an issue really in any kind of a tent, but what you can do to mitigate it, or what I do with pretty good luck, is I just make sure I have some cross ventilation up near the top. So the warmer air generally rises, as you all know. So if there's a little bit of cross ventilation at the top, that seems to really cut down on the condensation. It's actually pretty late, so I'm just going to get my stuff sorted out, my clothes laid out for the morning, and then probably just kind of kick back and read a little bit until I fall asleep. Oh, good morning, guys. I slept like an absolute baby last night. Just peeking around outside. I'm really excited to get out there and see what this little chunk of country looks like that we woke up in. All right, let's see what it looks like out there. Oh, yeah. I love this. You see my tracks right there where I drove in last night. Pretty cool little grove of old growth juniper here. Wow, I just wanted to take you a couple of minutes and show you this, man. I love this kind of country like this. Well, we had to go for a little walk this morning before we have some breakfast, and look at this massive juniper tree right here. Yeah, check this bad boy out. This thing, probably a couple 100 years old for sure. Yeah, I love walking in the early mornings when it's quiet like this. The sun's just been up for about 20 minutes or so, starting to warm up. Look at this, here's another gnarly twisted old juniper tree here. It's a very cool one. The snow drifted behind it. This would actually be a good spot to build a little shelter right here. And then look right out on the other side. I'm on the edge of this big flat out there too, so that might be a good place to spot some antelope or some animals. So cool back in here. Yeah, this is part of the problem is I get started exploring in here and I can just go for hours. There's some scat on the ground. It looks like elk. I haven't seen any fresh tracks, but yeah, I'm pretty sure there's elk in this area, which is really cool because the elk used to be out in this flat grassland country, and then when this area all got homesteaded and grazed with the agriculture and the grazing and the homesteading out here, that pressure pushed the elk up into like the Ochiko Mountains and the Maoris. And then now they're starting to move back out into this flat desert country again. So it's pretty cool to see a sign of them in a place like this. But we're getting a little lean on breakfast, so I'm thinking that we should start heading back to camp. Now, one thing that you got to be careful about in areas like this is it's pretty flat in here and the terrain is pretty similar. It's pretty monotonous, so there's not a lot of unique recognizable terrain that you can use to keep your bearings by. So you really have to be sharp, pay attention to the direction of the sun, the direction of the wind, things like that, to really help you keep your sense of direction out here. God, look at that old stump right there. And all the Spanish moss growing on it. That one was definitely cut back in the Homestead era. That was a big tree too. That provided a lot of firewood. There's home, at least for another hour or so. Ooh, I'm looking forward to that breakfast too. All right, remember how I told you guys we were going old school for the breakfast this morning? Well, what I've got here is I've got a can of Mary Kitchen roast beef hash, and we're just going to dump this in a frying pan, heat it up nice, toss a couple of eggs in, and that's going to be a real traditional when I was young and hunting, that was just a real easy camp breakfast, right? You got this roast beef hash, which looks a lot like dog food, but tastes a lot better than that. At least I'm assuming. Not that I've ever tasted dog food, but normally I like to cook it over some coals on the ground, but I don't even want to mess around with starting a fire this morning because I just want to get some breakfast in me, and then I want us to get on the road and have some time to do some exploring. All right, there she is. She may not look that appetizing, but that's a good breakfast. Some roast beef hash and eggs. All right, I got a little coffee going here, a little iced coffee, and let's see how she is. Oh yeah, that looks good. That'll work. Nothing fancy, and a lot of you guys might scoff at it, but man, I tell you, a lot of woodsmen traveled a lot of miles out in the woods on this breakfast over the years. And just like the old range cowboys, I'll eat it right out of the skillet. No sense in dirtying another dish. Yeah, for finding it at 10 o'clock at night last night, this is actually a pretty decent little camp spot here. And I noticed when I was walking around this morning that there's actually a lot of this area in here would make really good camping, and that breakfast is good. Cheers everyone, top of the morning. All right, breakfast is done, the dishes are done, so I'm just gonna make up my second cup of iced coffee. Gonna need our 2% milk, and then a little bit of Busy cold brew. All right, there we go. We're gonna have us a delicious iced coffee. Think about all we got left is the packing up. Let's start the long, arduous process of packing up our camp, which will take us about 10 minutes. Ready light, kitchen, lifesaver. Ooh, I gotta let the pressure off this thing first. Remove the automatic rooftop tent leveling device. All right, and the last step is just to bungee it all down. There we go, everything's tied down good, so as I'm jostling back and forth across the rocky roads and such, my load doesn't just keep shifting and shifting, so yeah, we should be good to go. All right, camp's all packed up. Let's, the moment of truth, let's see if the old Jeep starts. Oh yeah. All right, let's see if we can follow our tracks back out of here. All right, we're just gonna work our way down here. We've actually just got a couple of miles to go to the next spot we want to explore. So we're just gonna take our time and check out the country in between, which looks pretty interesting. All right, guys, hopefully the wind noise isn't killing my sound here, but I just saw some old rusty cans out there, and then I saw a few old fence posts back there. So I think I'm on to something. Right out here, we got a nice lake too. So this would have been a good spot for a homestead, and I've never checked this out before. I'm getting pretty excited. I'm thinking we might be on something here. Look at this lake out there. I also saw, just right back up there past the Jeep, I saw a pretty big tin can. And I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but it's right out there where I can see those other tin cans. Holy smokes, it looks like there's a bunch of them. This is a major dump. Okay. Barrel bands. They were definitely hauling water out here. Not sure what that is. Ah, look at this cool piece of purple glass. Wow. Oh yeah, look at this. So this is a lot of old glass. Here's Old mason jars. Look how beautiful blue that is. Look at this. It's pretty cool. An old can lid. Yeah, so as significant as this dump is, there was something fairly significant going on in the area. Like a homestead that made it quite a while. Pretty cool old galvanized bucket. So this would have been a really good spot for a homestead, and back in the era, the early 1900s, late 1800s, it would have been a lot moister out here. And when they were exploring this area, it's very likely that that lake behind there had water in it, maybe even the whole year. All right, look at this. So here's an old fence row. So this area inside here, oh, there's another fence there. All right, so this little spot in here, for whatever reason, was fenced off. So this must have been a pasture that they kept their livestock in to keep them close to home. All right, so there was definitely a homestead here. We just got to find where the living area was. That's a can that was flattened out. Sometimes these old homesteads, they flattened out their cans and then nailed them to the house and used them essentially for weatherproofing or siding. Boy, this seems like it would have been a good little spot. See, way up there is where my Jeep is and where that dump was. There's that pasture area out there. Oh, come on, what was going on here? Give up some more clues for us, that's what we need. All right, we're coming here into a cluster of cans again, so which would lead me to believe that this is by a structure or an area where at least where they hung out a lot. Oh, very interesting. Pretty good pile of them here. See, there's a big old piece of a flattened out can there. That one's probably 2 feet by 2 feet. And I definitely bet that one, that was a piece that was attached to the side of their house. Yeah, there's cans all over in here. A lot of trash. More piles of them here. Yeah, so we got to be getting close to the structure. Okay, well, this is interesting. So here's this fence right here, and it's got some, kind of old school chicken wire in it, right? And then all the cans are on the left side of it. So I'm guessing the building or the homestead was right over in there. And they tossed all their cans right over this stone wall here. And what's interesting is, look at this right here is the gate through the stone wall. This is going to be a good site, guys. I'm really stoked about this. All kinds of glass in the ground right there. And then look at this right here. I think this is the, I think that was the privy right there. It's possible it could have been a well too, but I don't think so. All right, guys, well, right over there's that privy. Over there's that fence row where they were throwing the cans over. And right in here, I saw something that I think might have solved the mystery. So, look at this soil down here. It's all ash, and there's a lot of little bits of glass and little nails and tacks in it. And there's a lot of melted glass. Look at that purple glass that's melted. So unfortunately, I think we know what happened here. And that is this old homestead burned to the ground. And by the looks of things, oh, check this out. It's an old ink. Hopefully you guys can see this. It's an old purple manganese glass ink jar. Perfect condition, not a single chip in it. That is just the coolest thing ever. So Right here is where that homestead was, and I'm pretty sure it burned to the ground. The only thing that bothers me is I don't see a real clear outline of a stone foundation, but they didn't always have those. But based on everything I'm seeing here, it was definitely a homestead site and definitely occupied for a decent period of time. All right, so mystery solved. So as sad as it is, you're looking at the site right there of that old homestead that burned to the ground. So let's walk around and see if we can learn any more about this site. All right, look at this. So where that homestead site was right up over there. Now we walked over here, and here's a pile of boards in here. And my guess is that this was some kind of a livestock shed or something, maybe a chicken coop. I did see some chicken wire back over there behind us. Yeah, so I'm thinking maybe some kind of a barn, although there is a ton of glass in here. Some really cool aqua glass. I don't know, guys. Maybe this was another building over here or something. Let me show you guys something. So, I don't know if you can see that, but that's a piece of obsidian. So that homestead site, you can see my Jeep back up there. That homestead site's right up over that hill. But like oftentimes happens where there was a good place for a homesteader, it was also a good place for the natives way before them. So out here, I'm starting to find some chunks of obsidian. In fact, I can see some more up there glistening in the sun. It's definitely a tool that's worked along that whole edge right there. It was kind of a bummer last night getting rousted out of our beautiful little camp spot there, but you know, the truth is, had we not got rousted out of that spot, we probably wouldn't have ended up here today, and I wouldn't have found this homestead site here. So, man, I just can't complain. This ended up being really way more than I could have anticipated, and I don't know, we've still got a little bit of daylight left. I don't know if we're going to be able to make it over by that moonshine still site. But man, even if we don't, I'm extremely stoked about this. All right, well, we made it back out to the somewhat well-traveled road and are working our way back out to the main road. So I think this is about a wrap for this one, everyone. As always, I appreciate you tagging along. I look forward to your comments. I appreciate your support. And above all, I look forward to seeing y'all on the next adventure. Until then, Coyote Works, out.